Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to the brand new batch or series on Bhagavad Gita, also known as Gitopanishad. And we have two categories of participants. One who are just doing the Bhagavad Gita course, and we also have some devotees who are doing, or participants who are undertaking a larger course called Bhakti Shastri, where we have homeworks and tests and evaluations, feedback, student presentations, group discussions, whole bunch of things. The classroom discussion or the classroom class is the same for both, but there'll be extra stuff for Bhakti Shastri students. So those who are doing Bhakti Shastri, don't be surprised that we have a larger group here. I think that was already clear to most of you. Having said that, let us start with what is known as Mangalacharan. Mangalacharan is our prayers for invoking the mercy or blessings of previous gurus, saints, and acharyas, so that we can understand the topics of Bhagavad Gita very nicely. Bhagavad Gita is not a casual book, and we definitely need the blessings of the masters of Bhagavad Gita, and most importantly, Lord Sri Krishna, the author or the speaker of Bhagavad Gita. So we will recite these prayers. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'll show you this website, and I'll show you how to get to these prayers and so on. Okay. Are you able to see the website, vedabase? Great. Thank you. So this website, as you can see, is vedabase.io. You don't need to add this en. So if you just go to vedabase.io, it'll automatically convert or add this en. Don't worry about it. So the name of the website is vedabase.io. And here there's a whole library of books. Don't worry about the other ones. We will talk about these during the class or series a lot. But the first one is Bhagavad Gita. And in that you go to, we will go to the introduction, and here are the prayers. So I will recite these prayers, and you can recite them along, but you will be staying on mute, and then we will get started. And please, I will recite them with a lot of attention, with a lot of devotion in the heart. I request all of you to do the same. And by doing it, I will be able to hopefully explain the Bhagavad Gita better. I will be able to understand it better myself. Every time I share the Bhagavad Gita, I get a better understanding. And hopefully you all will get a better understanding as well out of reciting these prayers nicely. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutah Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. So that was the recitation. Now, in that website, and I hope all of you have the book as well, the Bhagavad Gita. I have it here. I'll refer more to it. But that website has this entire book. So you can wonder why to purchase the book. But yes, I like the paper copy. I like to touch and feel it. So that's why I need the book, or I like the book. But the entire book is there on that website for you to access. And these prayers, after every Sanskrit prayer, there is a translation or a meaning. So it's very, very important to understand what you are reciting. And that is the mood of the Bhagavad Gita course as well. I'll explain this as we go along, but this Bhagavad Gita course is not just a shloka recitation class or like a parrot. I mean, reciting Bhagavad Gita course shlokas is much better than reciting Bollywood songs, but it is 100 times, or I don't know how many zeros to add, 1,000, 10,000 times better to recite the Bhagavad Gita as you understand the meaning for anything. So we have lost that culture of understanding what we are reciting or what we are chanting. As you are reciting, the meaning should pop up in your mind. And then that whole bhav will appear in your mind. When you are singing a sad Bollywood song, I don't know which one, what's the famous one I know? I can't even remember. Some people get emotional while singing it. That's because the meaning of the song is there in your heart. Or when people are singing the national anthem, some people choke up while singing some line they are attached to. Why is that? Because they understand what they are singing. So that is going to be the focus of everything we do. This whole discussion is or this whole series, and basically everything is based on understanding, not parrot-like recitation, even though that is very beneficial, better than parrot-like reciting so many other things, or mundane things, material nonsense things. Okay, enough of that. Let's get on with our class, or the slides that I have. Okay. Okay, slide sharing works. Great. Okay, 2024 batch. So welcome to the 2024 batch of Bhagavad Gita. So, quick. My name is Parama Karuna Das. That is my initiated or spiritual or Dikshit name given by my Guru Maharaj, Sri Romapad Swami, who is a disciple of the founder Acharya of ISKCON, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Caranarvinda, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We will talk a little bit more about him. I live in Portland, Oregon, in the United States, and I work as an engineer in Intel as a professional life. I've been living in Portland, Oregon for almost over 20 years, and I've been working. I have a family. So one of the misconceptions is, so many people say, oh, this is not the right time to read Bhagavad Gita. Oh, you're reading Bhagavad Gita. Oh, you're getting associated with Hare Krishna, with ISKCON. You're going to become a sannyasi. They're going to take you away. I'm not going to let that happen. And so much. I have been with ISKCON for 20 plus years. Nobody has taken my wife away from me. Nobody has taken me away from my wife. I'm happily married with my we have two children, teenagers. One of them is here attending the class. Can you wave your hand, Ram? All right. And the other one did it before. The elder one, they both go to college somewhere in the United States. And yeah, so one of the things that you will see in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that if you have received this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, go and share it with others. And in that mood or in that spirit of trying to follow Lord Krishna's instructions, we are doing this series of Bhagavad Gita. I have been doing this for the last 15 years, probably. Many people here who are attending are repeat attendees. I love doing it because I like to repeat myself as it's very, very true that the best way to understand something is to teach it. So I love to teach the Bhagavad Gita because every time I get something new. And I'm not saying this. Mahatma Gandhi also says this. If you have a paper copy, now this part is not in the online, but at the back of the book, this is the front. At the back, at the bottom here, there's a quote by Mahatma Gandhi. So let me read what he says. I'll just read one line. Actually, I can just read the whole thing. He says that when doubts haunt me, when disappointments stare me in the face, and we can agree that Mahatma Gandhi had his share of disappointments, and I see not one ray of hope on the horizon, I turn to the Bhagavad Gita and find a verse to comfort myself. And I immediately begin to smile in the midst of overwhelming sorrow. Here is the line that I wanted to read. Those who meditate on the Gita will derive fresh joy and new meanings from it every day. So that's the power of the Bhagavad Gita. So that's just a quick introduction about ourselves. I am associated with the ISKCON Portland Temple. So if you ever happen to come by, please visit ISKCON Portland. And the website is iskonportland.com. Okay, very quick. So I'm going to go very fast through all this sort of logistics, housekeeping material. We also have a website called gitapdx.com, where we just post some schedule of our classes. We do a lot of online classes, as I said, about this larger course or a deeper level called Bhakti Shastri. And then there is this, so all that information is posted here. Vedabase.io, I already talked about it. And all these classes are going to be posted on my YouTube channel. You can find it on YouTube by the name Parama Karuna Das. That's my initiated name given by my spiritual master. My legal name or civil name or the name that I had or have, which I use, outside of spiritual circles, is Purushottam Goel. You can find me on my LinkedIn. Logistics and housekeeping. Now, this is more, today we are doing a Zoom class, but if we are in the room, silence your phone. In Zoom, it means keep yourself unmuted unless you want to say something. And if you want to unmute yourself, today you cannot unmute yourself. Gradually, I will allow that permission. Then, make sure you're in a quiet environment and so on. Be punctual. We'll start right on time and we'll almost end on time within plus or minus few minutes, mostly plus few minutes. Bring your copy of the book. Best to not have to read the Bhagavad Gita online on your smartphone or iPad. It's very distracting and you could get easily distracted. Questions and answers. This is a very, very interactive session. I intend it to be very interactive. I'll pause at several points. I'd rather answer your questions than go through the prepared material, because answering the questions is most important, in my opinion. So it's not, I do not intend it to be a monologue. Raise your hand. In Zoom, you can raise your hand. Can one of you raise your hand and just show me that, Okay, great. Now you can lower it. Perfect. Or you can put questions in the chat and or send questions ahead of time. But I really want questions to be live during the class. And many people come and tell me that, can I ask you a question later? And the question they ask later is so meaningful. I wish they had asked it during the class because others would have benefited. As I said, this is not a puja, not a satsang. Well, it is satsang. Satsang means good sang, good association. But it's not like that kind of a satsang program where you attend and you will get some pious, punya, and some magic dust will be sprinkled on your head. But you will, you don't really need to listen and apply what you heard in the class. All you came here was for some magic dust. So that's not the case. It's not a pravachan. It's not a shloka memorization, shloka class either. Try to come for all the classes. It's a series. The more you don't miss, the more you'll benefit. If you have to miss, you can always watch a recording. But I have seen that if you schedule so many things to listen on the recording, it never happens, at least in my case. So unless you are super disciplined, it's just best to go through the live series, which has certain benefits, of course, of timeliness, as well as you can ask questions and so on. I won't go through all the rest. Keep yourself muted, turn on your video. It's for your benefit mainly. It's a forcing function for you to sit down and listen, like many of you are doing, instead of walking around or cooking or doing something else while listening to the class. There is a whole difference of attention that is there. And if possible, put your full name in the Zoom instead of something like iPhone or Samsung. Okay, let's go into the Bhagavad Gita. The organization of the Bhagavad Gita is what we will deal with. What are we reading? What's the book we are reading? Bhagavad Gita is organized into verses or shlokas, as we say. And these shlokas, each, again, I might go into a little bit detail, I'll come back, are in a meter or a chanda called Anushtup, where each shloka has 32 syllables divided into 4 lines or padas, each with 8 syllables. Anyway, so we'll discuss more of this as we go along. Bhagavad Gita has 700 verses divided amongst 18 chapters. So here you can see how they are divided. The longest chapter is the last one, 78. The second longest chapter is chapter 2, 72. There are 2 shortest chapters with 20 verses each, chapter number 12 and chapter number 15, both very, very important chapters. One of the things that I say about the Bhagavad Gita is that it's a magical book. So definitely, yes, you will get some magic dust as we go through it. But how Lord Krishna has compressed the most deepest knowledge in so few words. And that just amazes me. And some of these chapters are themselves like perfect summaries, or the essence of the Bhagavad Gita can be obtained through some of these entire chapters. Like the 15th chapter is a wonderful chapter. The yoga of the Supreme Person, also known as Purushottam Yoga. It's just so phenomenally profound. And in just 20 verses, the entire, essence is contained. It just amazes me every time I talk about this. Okay, now, if you have the paper copy of the Bhagavad Gita, you can open to any page, just about any page. So I opened page, 404 in my copy. And there are a couple of verses. So you don't need to read the verse or anything like that, but just identify how the Bhagavad Gita is organized in verses. And near the top binder, now I'm here talking about the paper copy of the Bhagavad Gita, at the top, just like a dictionary, you will see a verse number. So chapter number dot verse number. So the one I opened is 9.24, it says. And the verse, so in the Bhagavad Gita that I have, there is the verse or shloka in Devanagari script, the Sanskrit shloka in Devanagari script. Sanskrit is a language. The way to write the language does not indicate the language, okay? Language is Sanskrit. It can be written in many, many different lipis or scripts. The most common lipi today is Devanagari. The original lipi was also known as Pali, which does not, it was not Devanagari. That Pali lipi looks closer to modern day Bangla, actually, Bengali. Anyway, therefore, or with that, one can understand that the Bhagavad Gita can also be, the Sanskrit can also be written in Roman or English alphabets. I will show that in just a second. So 9.24, first, let's, the first line of the first, two padas, the half of the verse is, Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhureva cha. So that is written in Devanagari. Then the same verse next is written in Roman transliteration format, or you can say English alphabet. And you will see here, if you have opened that, Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhureva cha. So those who cannot read Devanagari, it is for their benefit that they can still read the Sanskrit or still speak the Sanskrit verse by looking at the English alphabet. Then we have a word-by-word translation. Aham, I. He, surely. Sarva, of all, like this. Maybe we can go to just to the very first verse of the Bhagavad Gita to make it easier. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha. So the very first verse. And how you can go there? Well, I don't want to waste time. We'll go through this quickly, but I hope you can find the first one. Actually, let me go to it. So share this other screen. Okay, so these were the Mangalacharan prayers in vedabase. I'll go back on top. I'll go to Bhagavad Gita as it is. Introduction, and after that is chapter 1. And here you will see just the translation. But if you click on this orange text, text 1, then you go to the full version where you can see Bhagavad Gita 1.1, chapter 1, verse 1, Dhritrashtra uvacha, this is Devanagari, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha. Similarly, same thing, Dhritrashtra uvacha, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha. So like that. So this one is Devanagari. Now this is not considered to be part of the verse. So you can see here there are 5 lines. But wherever there is a uvacha means Dhritrashtra spoke. So that's not technically part of the verse. Otherwise, there are 4 lines like this. In Devanagari, the 4 is kind of written as 2. You can see the 4 is here. Dharma kshetre, kurukshetre, that's 1. Samaveta yuyutsavaha, that is 2, and so on. Then we have word for word, which is also called synonyms, or the Sanskrit word for that is Anvaya. Anvaya means each word is broken down into its meaning. So Dhritrashtra uvacha, again, this is not part of the shloka itself. The shloka starts here. Dharma kshetre, in the place of pilgrimage, and so on. So that's how the verse is explained. And then there is a translation, just a plain English translation of the verse. What does the verse translate into in English as a full sentence with English grammar? So as you can see, the word by word does not form a sentence. You can just get the word by word meaning. To formulate a full sentence, that's the translation. In Sanskrit, it is known as anuvad. Even in Hindi, it is called anuvad. And then there is purport or a commentary to understand the deeper meanings of the verse. Commentary or purport. In Sanskrit, it is known as tika. So tika means commentary. And, there is the whole more details, or not details, but the essence or the deeper meanings of the verse. So that's how every verse is organized. Okay? Okay. Going back to the slides. Right? So we discussed this. So now you can navigate yourself through the Bhagavad Gita. IAST, remember I told you this, IAST. So those who cannot read Devanagari should be able to read perfect Sanskrit or recite or understand perfect Sanskrit without knowing Devanagari. And that's where IAST comes into picture. And it's a scientific way of writing Sanskrit in using Roman alphabet. IAST stands for International Alphabet of Sanskrit Transliteration. So it's a very, very organized way by scholars to write Sanskrit in using more or less Roman alphabet. The benefit of doing that is that normal readability for somebody who does not understand IAST, okay, he can also almost read the Sanskrit correctly, almost. So let's take an example. I will stop the share. We'll go to that first one itself. Okay. So here, this is Devanagari. Those who can read Devanagari can easily, we'll just go to this verse, not the Dhritrashtra Vacha. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre. That's how you would read it. Here it is how you would read it. So now those who do not understand it could read it as Dharma kshetre kurukshetre. S is an S, but now you can see a dot below the S in two places. Instead of pronouncing is as kshetre, those who know IAST would know that it is to be pronounced as kshetre instead of kshetre, not sa, but sha or ksha. Okay, so that's the way. That's why you might see in some places, I'll go back to the Bhagavad Gita, to the introduction. Remember, we had the Hare Krishna Mahamantra right here. So Krishna, we all know this is pronounced as Krishna. That's the name, Krishna. Why is it written as Krishna? Some people just say Krishna. Have we distorted the spelling of Krishna to Krishna? No. There is also the S with a dot. So it is Krishna. And it's not na, it's na. So the dot below the N also makes it na instead of na. So there is that whole science of how to read IAST properly so that the right sounds come out of your mouth if you don't know how to read Devanagari. So that's the whole point. And behind every paper copy of the book, there is what is known as a Sanskrit. Let me stop the share and then you can see this better. Sanskrit pronunciation guide. I hope you can see this in my paper copy. It's right here, Sanskrit pronunciation guide. So here also the same concepts are explained, how to pronounce certain of these letters properly. Just to give you a quick glance, and this is all taken from Wikipedia. So this is not ISKCON specific or anything like that. Scholars who write Sanskrit, even at Oxford or Harvard or wherever, use this heavily. You can see this. So this is not a class on IAST, but I just wanted to give you the flavor. One sort of thing to note here is the C is pronounced as cha. Okay. So that's the only one when I said that it almost normal readability is the main advantage, that even if you don't know IAST, the words will come out correctly. But we normally would say when it is cha as ch, but that was used for cha. That's why they had to use only C for cha. So there is another verse here. Let me show this. Oh, I wasn't sharing. I'm sorry. So I was showing this. C for cha. Okay, because ch is reserved for cha. And this is the only thing, at least in my mind, that always confused me. And let me show you one place where I used to get confused before I learned what is Devanagari all about, or what is IAST all about. So this says here, Sri Krishna. Now, I would think it is Kaitanya. That's how I would Kaitanya. But what is it really? It is Chaitanya. So it is Cha, not Ka. Ka would have been K. Anyway, so just to keep some things like this in mind. Okay, enough on IAST. Back to the Bhagavad Gita. Any questions? So now is the time to ask questions. Raise your hands if you have any. And while you're thinking, like I said, if you don't have questions, we'll keep moving forward. And it's been about 30 minutes, so we're keeping good pace. Yes, go ahead. Okay, let me give you can unmute, Lakshmi.
Hare Krishna. I have a question. How much it is important to pronounce well every verse, or whether our focus is more into understanding the meaning of the verse correctly, but as well as the focus should be on pronouncing too.
Yeah, good question. Like I said in the beginning, when we did Mangalacharan, that the focus of this whole discussion, the whole series is on understanding. But when you get more and more and more understanding, and if you start, and we will go into Sanskrit words as well, I will show you, see exactly, because please try to understand, Bhagavad Gita is coming directly from the mouth of God. Krishna is Bhagwan, he is God. Many people say, if God were to come in front of me and talk to me, what a life altering experience that would be. Well, he is talking. He has talked for 700 verses, and these are coming straight from his mouth. Straight from his mouth. So when one gets that feeling, when what I just said hits someone, oh my God, these are words coming from Krishna's mouth. I want to be able to repeat them. And there will be some verses that will impact you, that may even change your life. Out of 700, various verses may impact different people differently. And you will want to, I guarantee you, if you stay a lifelong student of Bhagavad Gita, in a few months or in a few years, you will want to recite the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, and also in the proper meter, in the proper way. And the nectar or the shower that you will experience of bliss and happiness is undescribable. That is when this will become important. So short answer is, in the beginning, focus on the meaning. When you start getting the meaning and you become attached to the verses, you will want to sing them, you will want to recite them, and you will want to recite them properly. And that is when this is important. I'm also keeping in mind that whatever I'm saying right now is getting recorded. It will stay on YouTube. And therefore, for those people who want to refer to it later, we can come back and refer to it. So I'm not only speaking to today's audience, I'm speaking to future audience as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I could understand. Thank you so much.
Okay, so there are no more questions and we will keep continuing. If you have questions, you must raise your hand and I will keep going in sequence. I'm not going to wait for questions. Yes, Pradeep ji. One sec.
Hare Krishna. I have one question regarding when was
and when
this?
you're asking a question, I would prefer, not mandate, that you turn on your camera.
Yeah, sure.
If possible. If you're in a weird scenario, then no problem.
No, I can. So I have a question regarding, like, when was this Gita was written and when this was get converted into English, and when this was got first published.
Okay, well, Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Sri Krishna when he came to planet Earth 5,000 years ago, right before the Kali Yuga started and Dwapar Yuga ended, the Mahabharat war happened, and that is the time of the ending of Dwapar Yuga and the starting of Kali Yuga. So he spoke the Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield of, we'll cover that in just a few minutes today, hopefully. And that's when it was spoken. The conversation between Krishna and Arjuna occurred in Sanskrit, and that's the recorded Bhagavad Gita. Through his divine vision, Krishna Dvaipayana Veda Vyasa, Maharshi Veda Vyas, he was the one who recorded it on paper, or he was speaking the Mahabharat. Again, this is a whole, this is not a Mahabharat class, but he was speaking. Lord Ganesha was the transcribe or the scribe. He was writing down as fast as he was speaking. That whole thing is described in the beginning of the Mahabharata. And so that's when it was written. Multiple translations exist of the Bhagavad Gita. Many people have translated the Bhagavad Gita into various languages. There must be at least 1,000, I don't know, or maybe less, few hundred, at least, translations of English of the same Sanskrit verses. And again, you know, when you're translating into a different language, there is some difference, obviously. And that's why I will go back and refer to the Sanskrit. I have compared at least 20 different editions of English translations of Bhagavad Gita and Hindi also. The Sanskrit verses in all of them are the same. All of them. So I have full confidence that over these 5,000 years, the Sanskrit has still remained intact. Okay. And translations, of course, vary widely. And I will talk about that in just a second when I talk about as it is. This particular translation that we are going to refer to is by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is written here, and I will talk about him a little bit. And this translation was done in the 1960s, directly from the Sanskrit.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so we will go to the next slide. I'm not going to wait for questions. You need to keep your hands raised for questions. Introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. What is the Bhagavad Gita? So just a second. The way I like to describe it is that Bhagavad Gita is a manual, user guide. For what? User guide for human life. That is what it is. So for a simple thing like a screwdriver, do you need a user guide? No. But for complicated things, you need a user guide. And or a complicated machine, you need a user guide. And I remember I purchased a Honda car many years ago. They sent me, in just for a Honda car, they sent me a 5-volume user guide, 5 volumes. I work at Intel and we make microprocessors. And there is a user manual for microprocessors. Now, nobody needs to know it. The biggest consumer of the microprocessor user manual is Microsoft, who has to write the fundamental layer of software that runs on the hardware called the Windows operating system. They heavily use that user guide. All right. That user guide is 15,000 pages long for a simple chip. Not a simple, it's very complicated. 15,000 pages. So that you know how to use that piece of what we call silicon. What is silicon? It is dust. It is sand. To know how to, I'm oversimplifying and trying to make it little humorous. To know how to use a small piece of dust, you have to have 15,000 pages of documentation. Anyway, human life or the human body is extremely complicated. It's a machine. Chapter 18, verse number 61, it says that the human body is a yantra. Yantra rudhani mayaya, it says. So body is a yantra or a machine. And the Bhagavad Gita is the manual for the machine, for this machine. If you know the Bhagavad Gita, you can make good use of this human life. And many people think that the Bhagavad Gita is supposed to be read towards the end when you retire. When do you want to read the user manual of any machine? After the machine has been used for 80% of its longevity, or on day one? You would agree that a user manual need to be read before you even turn on the machine. So the right time to understand Bhagavad Gita is as soon as possible. And that is why in the Vedic culture, this was the knowledge that was given to children as part of their basic education. Now that culture is lost, and that is why we see all the problems. And of course, it applies to all machines which are called human bodies. It is not for Hindus only. It is not for Indians. It is not just for religious people. It's a manual for life. So that is how we, everybody can approach it. And I already read the quote by Mahatma Gandhi at the back of the book. Now, when I ask people, what do you think the Bhagavad Gita is all about? What is the main message of Bhagavad Gita? Many people quote this verse, karmaṇy evādhikāras ma phaleshu kadāchana. So the essence of this verse at a certain level of abstraction is do your duty perfectly without worrying about the outcome. So that is definitely a very important message of the Bhagavad Gita, no doubt. But that is not the most important message. That's not the only message, far, far, far from it. And that is not the most important message either. It's not even the fifth most important message. Maybe it is in the top 10 important messages, yes. But it is not the most important message by any means. So I just want to share this with you. Many people, oh, I know this. I know Bhagavad Gita. I know it. I know it. What do you know? Oh, I need to do my duty. Don't worry about the result. Yes, this one verse of the Bhagavad Gita itself will make you immensely successful in life, no doubt. But you have a whole bowl of diamonds available to you to take away. You are choosing to pick one diamond from it. It will make you a millionaire, no doubt. But that is, I would say, foolishness if you just pick one diamond instead of taking the whole bowl, or at least a handful of diamonds. At least take few more. They can easily fit in your palm or your pocket. So I know this slide may be very busy. I will come to it, but so many things can be obtained from Bhagavad Gita. Who am I? What is my origin? What is the purpose of my life? Who is God? Does God really exist? So many things, so many things. And again, if you couldn't read that previous one, I have put some of these. I'm not going to go through this whole list. It's there. It's getting recorded on YouTube. You can go back to this, pause it at this point, and contemplate, introspect, see which question is relevant to you. Many people have certain questions which they have been bothered with or they have been thinking about, and see which one you want to get answered. And since the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by God himself, and God can do anything, the definition of God is that he has no limits. If he has a limit, right, then who is God? The person inside the limit or the box, who is bigger? The contents of the box are bigger or the box is bigger? You would say the box is bigger because the contents fit inside the box. Then we should worship the box, not the contents. We want to worship the greatest. So the point is, God has no limits. And one of the things that I want to say is that because he is God, through the Bhagavad Gita, he can directly speak to you. Even though the Bhagavad Gita has been read by trillions of people, hopefully, over the ages, still today, on the 9th of August, depending on where you are, 2024, this Bhagavad Gita that was spoken 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna is speaking directly to you. Now, this sounds stupid. This sounds nonsense. Probably it sounds mystical or magical. I believe it is true. Mahatma Gandhi believes it is true when he says, when I was faced with dire situations, I would open a verse and I would get comforted. Lord Krishna would comfort me. Okay. So that is what is available in the Bhagavad Gita. There is a lot more here. Fundamentally, there are 5 topics covered in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, there were many, many things, but at a most fundamental level, 5 key topics, and everything else that we discussed are sort of sub-variations or subcategories of those topics. First is the topic is Jiva. Now, you can try pronouncing it also. I with a little dash on top. It's not Jiva, like with the, in Hindi called, we call Chota E. Jiva. Jiva. Anyway, I'm not going to do that again. The pronunciation part, this is not a Sanskrit pronunciation class. So Jiva, who am I? Have anybody struggled with this question? Who really am I? Am I Indian? Am I a software engineer? Am I a husband and a dad? A son? Who am I? What is the role that I am playing here, or I should play? And the fundamental answer at the root of it, we are at a material level, we are our attachments. I'm also giving you the answer. We are our attachments. It's called our identity. Some people say, Jaan jaye, pran jaye, par vachan na jaye. You have heard that? Anybody has heard that? It means I'm willing to sacrifice my life, but I will keep my word. Pran jaye, par vachan na jaye. Their identity is that I am a man of integrity. That's their identity. Greater than their life itself. Some people will say, my life, I will protect my life at all costs. Some people give up their life. Look at the soldiers or whoever, so many people. But the point is, they are attached to that identity. And we think we are free. We think we can do anything we want. But we are not free. Before coming to Ishvara, I will come to Prakriti. We are all under the entanglement of what is known as Prakriti. And that is a central topic, one of the 5 central topics of the Bhagavad Gita. Material nature, where we are situated, where we live. How does the material nature work? Prakriti means this world. Some people think they are invincible or they are very powerful. Is anybody more powerful than a hurricane or a nuclear bomb? Well, that is man-made. So let's just say earthquakes. Cancer, look at Steve Jobs, or the Queen, the future Queen of England, Kate Middleton. She's suffering from cancer. Even the King Charles, earlier was to be Prince Charles. He had cancer. Luckily, they're both surviving, and we pray they live long. But, it's all part of Prakriti. So we are not free. And one day we will all die. Nobody has gained freedom from death, and nobody will ever gain freedom from death. And the reason why we are under the control is because of these 2 factors of material nature, which is karma. One crude definition, we will go into more deeper definitions of karma. Crude definition is consequence of my past actions. And therefore, regulating your present actions, knowing what could be the future consequences. Hey, I would love to drive at 100 miles an hour in my Ferrari on the regular highway here, where the speed limit is 55. I would love to drive at 100, but I know the consequences. I'll get a ticket, or worse, I could go to jail. So we know the consequences, we know that it will happen, and we regulate ourselves. We come back to 55. So, but in life, we don't live like that. We speak harsh words to others. We do bad things to others behind their back. We think nobody is watching. There will be no consequences. But there are consequences. God is always watching. You may be able to hide from the police, from the government, but you cannot hide from God. And you cannot hide from this final topic called Kala. Time can subdue even the biggest and the strongest. So we are entangled. The jiva, who he thinks is a particular person, like Hiranyakashipa. How many of you have heard of Hiranyakashipa? There has been no more powerful person in the last millions of years than Hiranyakashipu. He could subdue even Indra. Even the devatas were afraid of him. But even he got subdued. He thought, I have complete control over material nature. And yes, he could control the wind god. He could control hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes. He had complete control of everything. But he could not control his little son, Prahlad. So we think we are free, we are independent, we are the controllers. But if we take shelter of Ishwar, then we can be really free from the effect of all these three: Prakriti, Karma, and Kala. And that is why Prahlad was more powerful than Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu, through his intense tapasya or austerity, gained control over all these three: Prakriti, Karma, and Kala. Even he completely controlled time. He almost conquered his death, which is the biggest fear of, or the biggest weapon of time, is that everybody perishes. He controlled even that, because first he went to Brahma after his tapasya. I don't know if you know the story. He said, make me immortal. Brahmaji said, even I am not immortal. Please ask me something which I can give. I don't even have. You can only give what you have. So then he came up with this, concocted version of becoming immortal. Nobody should, no animal should be able to kill me. No human should be able to kill me. I should not be killed in the day. I should not be killed in the night. I should not be killed outside. I should not be killed inside. No weapon should be able to kill me. All he thought he had everything covered, all angles. And then Lord Vishnu appeared as Sri Nrsingadev and met all the conditions that Brahmaji said, yes, boon granted, and yet killed him. And Lord Nrsingadev appeared upon the call of Prahlad, who is the perfect devotee or bhakta of Lord Vishnu. And he had gotten entangled, so to say, we can use that word. We are entangled with Prakriti. He was entangled with Vishnu. So among the 5 important fundamental concepts of Bhagavad Gita is that if the jiva, today the jiva is entangled with the last 3. So the Bhagavad Gita teaches us what to do after understanding these 5 topics. The 6th topic is to remove our entanglement from the last 3 and become entangled with the second one, which is Ishvara. And Jiva's entanglement with Ishvara is known as yoga. Yoga means connection, or in some kind of, yoga means connection. So for the Jiva, today Jiva is connected with Prakriti, Karma, and Kala. If he is connected with Ishvara, that is best. So these are the topics of the Bhagavad Gita that we will cover. Now, when I got the Bhagavad Gita many years ago, Bhagavad Gita, I had heard the name, I had even read a little bit. But here there is a little tagline called "as it is." What do you mean as it is? Is this a different Bhagavad Gita spoken by somebody else? Did Krishna speak Bhagavad Gita 2 different times? One not as it is, one as it is. Are the shlokas different? No. It's the same Bhagavad Gita. This is in small font, as you can see, as it is, means a specific thing. That the translations, the word by word meaning, the translations, and the commentary or purport or tika, as it is called, is conveying the intent of the author. Do you follow? When you are reading a book, you should get what the author intended to convey. What is a book or a composition? It is the expression of the author. You are welcome to read whatever you want. You needn't have spent these 2 hours today reading or hearing Bhagavad Gita. You could have been reading Harry Potter. For all, it matters. But if you are reading the Bhagavad Gita, the understanding is that you are trying to understand the intent of the author. But many people, and I have personally read without taking any names, I can tell you that many translations do not convey the intent of Sri Krishna. Who is the author of the Bhagavad Gita? The original author, Vedavyas ji, just wrote it. He heard it and he wrote it. So because we cannot, writing is a way of preserving. So the author of Bhagavad Gita is not Sri Krishna Dvaipayana Vedavyasa. The author of of Bhagavad Gita is Sri Krishna. So we must get the as it is conveying that this edition or these translations are conveying the intent of Sri Krishna. I'll give you a small example without taking names. I'll stop here and go back to this screen. And I will go to chapter 18. So I told you in Bhagavad Gita, there are 18 chapters and 18th chapter has 78 verses. Okay, so I will go to the almost very end of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18. Please pay attention and try to understand this whole point of somebody asks you, what is this as it is? Somebody may come and say, hey, here is different Bhagavad Gita, you should read this one. Don't read that other one. That's fine. You can, once you become a scholar, you can compare. But I'm just trying to tell you the significance of the as it is. So we'll go to chapter 18 and I'll go to verse number 64. Now, as you can imagine, this is almost the end of the Bhagavad Gita. Almost the end, 78 verses, and last few verses are, this is almost one of the last verses spoken by Sri Krishna. After that, Arjuna speaks. After that, Sanjaya speaks. Okay, and here he is saying, I like to read in Devanagari, but you can see here and see, I'm going to the Sanskrit. Okay, Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuyaha Shrinu me paramam vachaha. Shrinu me paramam vachaha. That I have told you, Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuyaha. Again, Bhuyaha means again. When you want to say something important, you tell the child or your student, you repeat. Like a mother tells the child, don't play with the knife. Did you understand, my child? Don't play with the knife. She will repeat the instruction so that the child doesn't do something dangerous. So Bhuyaha, again, I have told you my Sarva Guhyatamam, the most Guhya, the most confidential, the most important knowledge. And again, he reemphasizes that by saying, Shrinu me, Shrinu, please hear. Like I'm saying, hey guys, open up. Wake up if you have slept off. If you have wandered away, please listen carefully. Pay attention. Teachers say in the class, pay attention. Krishna is saying, pay attention, Arjuna. Shrinu me paramam vachah. My most important words. Paramam means most important. Vachaha means words. Directly, Sri Krishna is saying this. Am I saying this? No. And then the next two verses, 65 and 66. And in English also it is written here, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, paramam vachaha. But we can kind of get lost in the English. It kind of, it could just, you could read over it, gloss over it, and it may not stick to you. Somehow the Sanskrit words stick. Shrinu me paramam vachaha. Pay attention. Listen to my most important words now. And then 65 and 66 verses, these two are the most important verses of Bhagavad Gita. Obviously, like in any technical paper, if you have read a technical article in a journal, the last conclusion section is the most important. There he gives his last theorem, last final conclusions, the most important. Similarly, these verses are the most important. Now I have read a book and I have heard some YouTube videos by different people who say 50 most important shlokas from Bhagavad Gita. That's the title of the video. 50 most important shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. All right. These two shlokas, both of them are missing from that list. Both of them. Is that person conveying the intent of the author? Yes or no? I spent so much time trying to explain you all how important Sri Krishna is making these two verses, 65 and 66. And somebody is coming and giving his opinion on the 50 out of 700, almost 10%. And these two don't figure in that list. I have zero faith in his selection of 50 verses now. Zero. Same thing in a different book also. The essential verses of Bhagavad Gita. These two are missing. So that's why this is called as it is. Because, and I have read this Bhagavad Gita and many others. This one, of course, many more times. And I can tell you, this is conveying the intent of Sri Krishna. You have to read the whole text, the entire textbook, to understand the intent of the book. You can take one verse out of context. There was a big court case in the 1980s in Russia when Bhagavad Gita was, in general, Bhagavad Gita was being spread. Lord Krishna says, stand up and fight to Arjuna. Arjuna, as you can understand, was saying, I don't want to fight. And they used that one verse out of context and says, Bhagavad Gita is inciting violence. See, it says, stand up and fight, go kill these people. It is, there are at least 5 verses in Bhagavad Gita which talk about ahimsa, non-violence. All that is, so that's called taking out of context. So there are many, many other verses of the Bhagavad Gita which can be taken out of context or misinterpreted. But if you look at the whole Bhagavad Gita, it is talking about non-violence. It is talking about loving each other. Chapter 12, so many verses. The last 8 verses of the chapter 12, that you should be a friend to each other. Maitri. Now, I'll have to find it, but yeah. He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone. He by whom no one is put into difficulty. What does it mean? And I'm sure the word Maitri is here somewhere. Friendship. No, not this one. Maybe somebody can find. It's kind of just before or after. Maitra, right here. Adveshta sarvabhutana Maitra Karuna evacha. Karuna means compassion. Maitri means friendship. Let's look at the English translation here. See, friend. He who is not envious, but is a kind friend. Karuna and Maitri. How does it align with violence? To all living entities, all, not just Hindus. Go kill all the other religious people. Not, as long as they are Hindu, you are a friend. As long as you are Russian, go kill. Does it say that? No, it is in fact saying Sarva Bhutanam. Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. All, not only Naraha or Manushaha or Manushyaha. Bhutanam. Don't even kill an insect. Bhuta means living entity. Maitra Karuna Evacha. This is a book of compassion. It is a book of friendship. But misinterpretations can abound. So that is the meaning of as it is. And like this, so many examples are there at even more deeper philosophical level, which we will cover during the course. A little bit about the author. Okay, sorry, should switch slides. At any point, if I'm showing, if you think, now you have to kind of be tuned to me. If you think I'm showing the wrong slides, or you think I should be showing slides, but I'm not, just, ping me or do something. Raise your hand. Or when I do give permission to unmute, when you will all get tuned to staying mute, sometimes, you think you are muted and then you are shouting to your, husband or wife, hey, close the door. And we can all hear that you are, doing that. So it happens. So when you all get tuned to staying mute, then I will allow the permission for all of you to unmute at your will. For now, you can raise hand using like how you did. Commentary about the author or of the, now again, Srila Prabhupada, we call him Sri Prabhupada or Srila Prabhupada. He is not the author of Bhagavad Gita. Many people say he is the author of Bhagavad Gita. The author of Bhagavad Gita, once again, is Sri Krishna. He is only the author of the purports or commentaries, or what in Sanskrit is known as Tika. That's the only thing he's the author of. And he is the translator of the Sanskrit to English, because he is an expert in both languages. Just like, when President of Biden talks to Putin, may not be a good example, and they don't understand each other's language, you have translators. The translator is supposed to be a person of high fidelity. He shouldn't think. He should keep his brain or intelligence only in translation. He shouldn't think, oh, this guy is saying something I don't want the other president to hear. So he shouldn't just drop some portions of the sentence. That could create massive problems. So a translator is supposed to be high fidelity or highly in integrity. So translations are just that. In the commentary, one can express his heart or what he thinks one wants to convey. So these are so he was born in 1896 and he passed away in 1977 at the age of 81. So you can say a pretty modern acharya or saint. He lived his whole life in a very, very devotional way. At the age of 60, around 60 or 56, he took sannyas, which means took to the or renounced order of life, lived in Vrindavan for many, many years, and wrote the commentaries on Bhagavad Gita and many other books, primarily the Srimad Bhagavatam as well, which we will talk about sometime later. The full name of, since he got sannyas, first when he got Dikshit by his Guru Maharaj, by his spiritual master, Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami, he was his guru. The name he got was Abhaya Caranarvinda Das. His original, whatever you can call it, the legal name on his birth certificate or something was Abhay Charan Day. So he's a Bengali, comes from West Bengal. So Day, D-E-Y or D-E. And then the name given was Abhay Caranarvinda Das. And then when he got sannyas, you get an extended name. It became Sri Abhaya Caranarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami. And his followers, out of respect, call him Prabhupada. Prabhupada means one who is the follower of Prabhu, one who is the follower of the Lord. In 1966, so way back in the 1930s, his guru told him, you are good in Sanskrit, you are good in English. Not many people were like that at that time. Now there were, plus you are a devotee. That was a given because he became his disciple. So you are a devotee, plus you are knowledgeable in Sanskrit and English, and you are a smart guy. You are an intelligent devotee. There are some devotees who are very simple. They don't, somebody asks them a question. In their heart, they may be perfect devotees, but that capacity to explain to others may not exist. So his guru spotted these qualities in him in the 1930s and said, you should go and spread the knowledge of Sri Krishna in the Western world. Everybody needs Bhagavad Gita. And it's not like the Quran or the Bible is bad. No, but give the Bhagavad Gita. Let them decide what is best. Why let a very good option be remain hidden from the West? So that's why at the age of 70, first and it's a longer story, but he traveled to the United States. At that time, the United States became in the 1930s, probably England was considered to be the most powerful country called the West, so to say, the West. But by the 1970s, it became America. First, he had plans to go to London or to England he always remembered the instructions of his guru. And he was preparing himself to be ready to go and share this Bhagavad Gita in the West. Then he changed his plans and said, no, I want to go to the capital of the West. And the capital of the West is became at that time the United States. And within that, the capital of the United States, I mean, is Washington, D.C., fine, but really the capital of the United States was New York, the most important city in United States. So that's where he started ISKCON. ISKCON stands for International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So, or more commonly known as the Hare Krishna Society. So that's who he is. And by the time he, passed away, Bhagavad Gita and Hare Krishna was a household name. Everybody in the West knew what this is. And this was his great contribution to his spiritual master. He more than fulfilled the instructions of his spiritual master. Okay. So, another important thing, why as it is because we must learn. Bhagavad Gita is a very, very, I will take questions at a logical point. So you can start raising your hands if you have questions, okay? And leave them raised. I'm not going to get disturbed by it. If you have questions, raise your hand and leave it there. I'll go in that sequence. So, Bhagavad Gita is best understood. Anything is best understood from the source. When Einstein was present on the planet and he was considered the greatest scientist of all time or whatever, and when he used to go and give lectures on relativity, general relativity or special relativity, the hall would be like full. Everybody wants to listen from, as you say, the horse's mouth. And of course, there are then later on, There were other professors and so on and so forth. So, but we have Sri Krishna. Now we don't have Sri Krishna. Arjuna had Sri Krishna right in front of him to speak the Bhagavad Gita. But Lord Sri Krishna gave the Bhagavad Gita to many people. And that was to Arjuna, it was transmitted on the battlefield through voice. But it was also transmitted to many others through the heart. And it is possible. Remember, God can do anything. So the four principal receivers of this knowledge became the four principal deities of the four principal Vaishnava Sampradayas, which is Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Mother Lakshmi, and the four Kumaras. And they became the four principal Sampradayas: Brahma Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, Shri Sampradaya, and Kumara Sampradaya. So we come under the Brahma Sampradaya. And it has been passed down from, and then Brahmaji received it perfectly. That whole knowledge was received perfectly, and then he gives it to another student. And if the master thinks that this student has become a perfect student, he makes him, or he gives him the power to become an acharya or a teacher who can further pass it down. So it is passed down, this knowledge is passed down from Sri Krishna down a line of what is known as Parampara or Disciplic Succession. And all the links in that chain, all the acharyas were perfect students who became perfect teachers. And this knowledge is coming down in that sequence of unbroken parampara all the way to Srila Prabhupada. If you want to see the whole parampara, and we can have a longer discussion at a different point, let me show you at the end of the. So here we are in the Bhagavad Gita. We'll go back to Bhagavad Gita, introduction, and at the very end, you can see the whole parampara. Starting from Sri Krishna. Again, this is not Krishna, this is Krishna. Okay? Because of the three dots below the R, S, and N. Anyway, and this is not Brahma, it's Brahma because of the dash on top of the A, or that line on top of the A. Anyway, so Krishna, Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, Madhva, Padmanabha, Nrahari, and so on, all the way to Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. I told you he is the guru of Abhaya Caranarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So that whole line is given here. The line of Parampara, the chain. Oops. What do you see on the sharing? The slides or the vedabase? Do you see the slides? Wait. Yeah. Okay. You see the slides? Okay. So that's the parampara. And the Bhagavad Gita, this is as it is because it is coming through that system of unbroken disciplic succession. All these other people who write, 50 most important shlokas of Bhagavad Gita and don't include the other ones, you should ask them, who is your guru? Can you please tell me the list that connects back to Krishna, that chain? They will not be able to. And that is why it is said here. Let me go back here. Remember, we read these verses. The first verse that we read, it is showing the importance of Guru. So we'll probably just go into the meaning of the one verse, the first one, the Mangalacharan that we read. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya. Chakshur unmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, the student is saying that I have been so long blind, timirandhasya, andha. My eyes have been blind. I was born in the darkest ignorance. That is Om Ajnana. So Om is the starting word, but Ajnana Timirandhasya. I was born into ignorance. I was blind to the real knowledge. Jnana Anjana Shalakaya. So my spiritual master, my guru, you see here Shri Gurave, Guru. To that guru I do Namaha. I pay my gratitude. What did he do? Jnana Anjana Shalakaya. He opened my eyes. Anjana. Shalakaya. With Jnana. With the torch of knowledge. Chakshu means my eyes. And Anjana is the thing that you put in the eyes. The ointment, or you can think like mascara or whatever, kajal, whatever, Anjan. What Anjan, what ointment, what medicine did he put in the Chakshu? Gyan. And that's what woke me up from ignorance. Tasmai Shri, to that Guru, I do my Namaha. I offer my respect or gratitude. That is the meaning. So this knowledge is supposed to be obtained from a Guru. A bona fide Guru who is coming in the line of unbroken chain of succession. Otherwise, you can read the Bhagavad Gita verses by yourself and you can come up with imaginary meanings with closed eyes. Like you must have heard that story of 5 people touching an elephant. You've heard that story? And somebody who's touching the legs, he's asked to describe an elephant. He says it's a pillar. Somebody who's touching the tail says that it's a rope. Elephant is not a pillar. Elephant is not a rope, because their eyes are closed. And when they opened their eyes, then they saw, this is the elephant, big animal, elephant. So opening the eyes is what we should do. Then I want to go to another aspect about the student. Now, teacher, yes, you need to find a teacher, and we have Srila Prabhupada as the teacher. He has given us the Bhagavad Gita, this one, with detailed commentaries through which we can understand. And then he taught his disciples, many of them. One of them is my Guru Maharaj, for example, and many others. And they have taught it to their students and so on. And we are trying to share it with all of you. So, but not everybody gets it. What is the best example of this? The best example of this is our dear friend, Dhritrashtra. If you know the Bhagavad Gita, it was actually being spoken by Sanjay to Dhritrashtra. Dhritrashtra said, tell me what's going on the battlefield. And Sanjay was hearing and repeating it to Dhritrashtra. Sanjay got it, but Dhritrashtra completely missed the point. Completely missed the point of the Bhagavad Gita. So even though he heard it very properly, directly, almost directly from Sri Krishna, and Sanjay did not act as a bad proxy or a bad, transmitter. He was not a translator. Everything was just Sanskrit, but he was a transmitter, long range transmitter, high power booster signal booster. That's all he was. But Dhritrashtra did not get it. Because the student needs to have a certain mood, a certain attitude also. That is a big requirement. Otherwise, even if God speaks, nothing happens. Sri Ram spoke to Ravan, sent his messengers like Hanuman, Angad, right? Even through Vibhishan and Kumbhakarna also advised, don't take panga. Don't take panga with, don't pick a fight with Lord Ram. There was no effect on a demoniac person. So the mood of the student is also very, very important. And in the modern time, so let me go to the next slide, and I'll talk about this axiom a little bit later, but let me see what's there in the next couple of slides. Okay. It is very, very important to get a sense of, anyway, I'll stop sharing the slide and just say this. This is an important point. The mood of the student needs to be of submission and devotion. This is a highly, highly complex topic, and many, many, many people approach it with, I know it. If you know it, first of all, no need to be in this class. Second of all, sometimes people think, I want to check my understanding with what this person is saying. So you're comparing. That is also not submission. And if you really, really know it, then you will relish whatever I'm saying. Then there will be no misalignment. I am speaking, you are, and there are many such people on the call who know very nicely Bhagavad Gita, and some of them are my very good friends. And they will find no alignment, misalignment, and they will just enjoy. So that is fine. But they are coming from a mood, a attitude of submission and devotion, not to me. I'm not asking for your submission, to Sri Krishna. So, and when that is not there, so either that is there, but if it has not developed yet, and many of you are new, first time maybe you are hearing Bhagavad Gita or this whole discussion, so that submission or devotion may not exist, and that's fine, understandably so. But then the next best category of people to understand Bhagavad Gita are those who have faced some kind of suffering. That is the category of people who are in the best position to understand Bhagavad Gita. What is suffering? In essence, suffering means your identity is shaken. Remember identity? That is shaken. You think somebody is doing a lot of exercise and lot of he thinks he's fit and fine. One day he realizes, no, I'm not fit and fine. Something happens. One blood, as somebody says, you are one blood report away from disaster. You go for a routine checkup and doctor calls you to the office and says, I have some bad news. Or so many other bad things happen. You think you are in full control, and suddenly that identity that I am in control goes away. Sometimes you think, oh, I am the best father. My son will love me. I have been the best father in the whole world. I am the best father. And due to, sometimes the child does not reciprocate. And then you say, wait, what happened? All I did was, I lost my job. He didn't even call me, let alone try to give some comfort of some, let alone give financial support, he didn't even give some sweet words. Or you think I have supported my child for 30 years. The child takes off to a different country and you are left in the other country and never calls. That's suffering. And then one thinks, where did I go wrong? Where did I go wrong? My life was perfect. I planned out everything. I was very good with everyone. Why did it happen to me? Why me? These are the two words that shake up people. Why me? How many of you have had that? I'm not going to ask you to explain or share, but how many of you had that in your life? Why me? Come on, raise your hand if you have. Let's see, out of 82 people, raise your hand in Zoom. About big things, not small things, big things. Why me? Even a small child could have this, why me? Somebody is born with a disease. Hey, every other child is having fun. They are able to do all the normal things. Why me? Why I cannot go to the park and play like them? Why me? It's almost, I don't know, the whole line is full with the hands. Almost more than half of you have raised. Very nice. Okay, now you can lower. Anyway, we got the point. Yeah. And the bigger, harder that has hit you, why me? The more one is receptive. The more one you are looking for answers, the more Bhagavad Gita will give answers. There's a very nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Let me share. This is one of the verses that you have to memorize as part of Bhakti Shastri, by the way. Chapter 2, verse 46. Very important verse, which exactly shows this point. It's the converse. 2.44, sorry. Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya pratah chetasham vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhau na vidhiyate. What it means? In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, which means they have not yet faced that situation. Everybody will face that situation one day or the other. Guaranteed. If you have not faced it, that's what this is talking about. It only means you have not yet faced it. Look at King Charles. He is not in good terms with his own son, Harry. He goes around, telling how bad his father is. The King of England. 100 years ago, he would be called as the king of the whole planet. The British Empire. Can't even have good relationship with his son. I tell this other story. These days, the president of the United States is considered to be the king of the world, right? Ronald Reagan, I like to read history. I like to read biographies. In his biography, Ronald Reagan writes about the same thing. He did not have good relationship. He's the president, and not only a president, one of the successful presidents. Look at the map of the electoral map of when Ronald Reagan was elected. He didn't go by like George Bush, like 270, 271, like marginal victory. He had like a landslide, like what is called a true landslide. Very popular president, really powerful, really had the support of the people. His gripe in his life was he was not in good relationship with his son. One time he writes in his biography. He didn't have time to write it. Somebody else wrote it. Anyway, one time his son hung up on him. Like he was on the phone and his son hangs up. And Ronald Reagan threw the phone away. Imagine the president of the United States. He said, no one hangs up on the president. No one. Imagine hanging up on the president of the United States. He was so mad. That was the problem of one of the problems of his life. No one hangs up on the president. He didn't speak to him for many, many, many months. So even though he's full of enjoyment, material opulence, everything, so but not yet, if you are not yet in that situation, and those who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Samadhav na vidhiyate. So the point is, if you are enjoying life, chances are less that you will be attracted to spiritual knowledge, because you are just way too attracted to material enjoyment. Life is good. Why you need Bhagavad Gita? Life is good. Bhagavad Gita is a solution. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita really well applies to those who are suffering. And therefore, even if you are not, and I hope and pray that you never have to suffer to understand Bhagavad Gita. Fortunately, you are here listening to me today in this class. Approach the Bhagavad Gita with humility and devotion. You will get something out of it. And maybe you will prepare yourself for the day when suffering hits. It will hit one day or the other. Definitely it will hit. Okay. Everybody has it. They may not reveal. These days, due to tabloids, everything is revealed. But sometimes you can keep it in the heart. But everybody has some suffering or the other. So Bhagavad Gita could help you to deal with it in a very, very, very nice way. Okay, now to the last point, and before we move on to chapter 1 contents, let's see. So there are some questions. The fundamental axiom. So one may think, or one may ask the question, okay, all this is written in Bhagavad Gita. But I don't agree. I don't agree with what Krishna is saying. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says so many times, I am God. He himself says that. So that there is no doubt. Now, it doesn't mean he's arrogant or he's proud. But he's saying it so that the students like us really understand, yes, he's saying he's being as clear as possible. He's leaving no doubt. If he tries to be very humble and say, no, I'm not God, I'm just, so and so or whatever, maybe the people will actually take him for, at his word. So he's leaving no possibility for us to misunderstand anything. He is directly saying in Bhagavad Gita, I am God. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Mattah sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhajan 10.8. So, Aham Ishwarah sarvabhutanam. I am the Lord of all living entities. Ishvara. He's saying that. So anyway, and Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram. I am the Maha Ishwara of all living entities, Bhuta. So many places he has said 5.29. I mean, I don't want to do a whole Bhagavad Gita class today. That's what we have several months to cover. Now one can say, okay, I don't believe he's God. That is what I'm asking you to agree or align on. If you cannot align on that, then you are in the wrong class. So we have to agree that yes, we are here to read Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by Krishna, who is God. And therefore, Bhagavad Gita is something we have to accept. That is the baseline for a discussion. Just like if you want to resolve any conflict in the United States, for example, the baseline document for resolving all conflicts is the Constitution of the United States. If one says, no, I don't agree, there need to be elections. Why should Donald Trump be president or Biden be president or whatever, Kamala Harris? I don't agree. Whoever, I don't know, can kill most people of the other party should be president. That's how it used to be in the tribal days, whichever is the powerful party and can kill the other people and subdue them, they get to have the power. Then you're saying, okay, then we are not even agreeing on the foundational basis of a discussion. Then it will become the wild west, or so to say, as they say, or it's jungle, the law of rule of jungle rule. So we don't want a jungle rule in this class. You cannot ask a question to which the answer shall be, or I can point out a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, but you say, I don't agree with this verse. Krishna is saying, I am God, but I don't agree. Now prove to me that he is God. I will not be able to prove to you that Krishna is God in a discussion. Then it will just come through your own heart. I can only pray for you that one day God shows you who he is. He can reveal anything to anyone. But that is not my cup of tea, as they say. My cup of tea is to explain Bhagavad Gita as much as I have understood, and I will do my best to explain that to you. Okay? So Bhagavad Gita is the foundation of our discussion. Or just like United States Constitution, somebody can say, earlier it was like that. Before the Civil War, that whoever owned the most slaves had that many extra votes. Each slave was counted as 3/5 of a person. So if you had 5 slaves, you get 3 votes compared to plus your own one. So you can cast 4 votes because you have 5 slaves, 3 for the 5 slaves, 1 for yourself. And somebody who does not have any slaves gets to cast 1 vote. That was the system. Really, it was the system. Go read the history. Today, that is not the system because a constitutional amendment was enacted. So one can argue, even today it should be like that. Then I will show you the constitutional amendment. And then you will say, I don't agree with it. Then what can we do? We will have to go to Supreme Court. They will obviously side with the Constitution. Even if you don't agree to them, what is left? Nothing. All you can do is take up violence. So there is no end to that argument. We need to have a common basis for discussion, and the basis for discussion is Bhagavad Gita, with the assumption that it is spoken by none other than God, who is Sri Krishna. Okay, very quickly, we'll wrap up today's discussion. We could not get to chapter 1, but we will get to it next time, and I want to take questions. So please hear the Bhagavad Gita with a sense of urgency. It has tremendous value for your life. Though the course is free, don't take it lightly. We are trying to do this course obviously free because I like to do it. I enjoy it. Somebody did it for me many, many years ago for free, and I'm doing it as a seva for Sri Krishna and my Guru and the entire Guru Parampara. And try to get the Bhagavad Gita. Don't try to analyze, don't do a surgery on it. Try to get it. Get the point of what the Bhagavad Gita is trying to say. Okay? So try to get it. Yeah, so we said it's not, and Bhagavad Gita is not a casual pursuit. It's not, you can say, management, leadership techniques, health improvement. It's not for that. Yes, all that is available. All that is available. That is like picking a 1 diamond from a bowl when you can carry the whole bowl of diamonds with you. How to lead a better present life is the is the smallest possible use of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is about finding the meaning of the present life, keeping the entire eternity in view. We are not just our present lives. We had many, many past lives, and we will have many, many future lives. Bhagavad Gita is to make the best use of this life so that our eternity, past and present, can be blissful, can be perfected. Past because of the karma. Karma is coming from past. We will deal with all this just in case if somebody is thinking, why past? It's like I just came up with this. It's like otherwise you are purchasing an iPhone Pro Max. If you're only using it for health or leadership, that's like buying an iPhone Pro Max just to make voice calls. You could have purchased a simple candy phone for $20. Bhagavad Gita is so much more. Make the most use of it. Okay? Questions? Okay, let's go with Prithvi. Go. Okay, let me. Yeah, go ahead and you can unmute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I always wondered why did Krishna choose Arjuna to, first share the Bhagavad Gita? And as you went in today's, as you go about different paths in today's session, you also mentioned that actually Sanjaya was narrating the story to Dhritrashtra, which I didn't realize until today. So that was like eye-opening that, Dhritrashtra was also listening to it. So can you give me some understanding into why Arjuna was chosen when there were 5 Pandavas?
Very nice. Let me answer briefly, and since time is less, I will answer briefly, but we will go into it in detail, this question in chapter 4. So I will give a small answer and bigger answer. I don't want to leave you guessing, curious. So I'll give an answer. It will be short because I'm also telling you at which point in Bhagavad Gita the details will come.
Sure.
Makes sense? So Bhagavad Gita was not spoken first to Arjuna. Surprising as it may sound, again, the circumstances were different. Sri Krishna is saying, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivishwan first. And that too is not first. That is within this Manvantara. Details aside. Vivishwan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Then what happens is the Parampara gets broken. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession. The verse has the word Parampara. Evam Parampara Praptam. Let's see this verse. Right here you can say, Evam Parampara Praptam. Okay. So this knowledge is coming from Parampara, but in due course of time, the succession is broken. Then Krishna comes and reconnects, re-establishes the Parampara. That is why he says in the 7th very famous verse, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Whenever there is dharma is lost, right? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. What is it? Very famous verse. Abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Then I appear. Srijami aham. I appear. To re-establish. Now, next question is why Arjuna? Very nice question. That is answered in verse 3. 2 qualities. This is one of the Bhakti Shastri questions in the exam. I'm telling you. Free exam questions for those who are doing. Why Krishna tells it. What are the qualities to receive Bhagavad Gita? 2 qualities. Because you are my devotee and my friend. That is what I was telling. Amongst all the Pandavas, and definitely not the Kauravas, but even among the Pandavas, Arjun was the most dear to Krishna. And so Krishna wants to tell this thing to somebody who is favorable, who will accept it. Now, we may think, I'm not a friend of Krishna, but we can be a devotee, or at least listen. The starting point is to listen with a sense of accepting. This is something like, I don't know, I'll just say this, maybe I'll sound a little arrogant. When you my two sons go to college. The fees is $80,000 a year these days, per child, per year. When you pay $80,000, you don't ask, is the professor teaching me correctly? Is this the best professor? This, that. You open your ears and listen to every word they say. You're paying $80,000. The children may not realize, baap ka paisa hai, but that's what it is expected. The father expects the child to open his ears and listen every word. There is no question of doubting the teacher. But here it is free of cost. So all these questions come. So it is like a little bit like, quantum mechanics. If you have to hear, you will go to the best professor in the country, pay $80,000 and listen to him. You have the best professor of Bhagavad Gita, Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He is teaching us. You better listen to him like you would have listened to a physics professor of a top university after paying $80,000. With that mood, you have to listen. Oh my God, this is supreme knowledge. I should listen. Then you become an eligible candidate, and that is who Arjuna was. In a sort of a modern context, I'm trying to explain. These are the qualities of Arjuna that made him to be chosen by Sri Krishna. Okay, next question. Roma Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Shashtang Dandvat. Thank you for the session. Quick question is, there are two disciplic successions we are talking about. One started with Vivaswan and then Ikshvaku and then Manu. And then one we read in the introduction, which is Brahma and Narada and that succession. So
and also Arjuna. Now Arjuna also is a succession. He is not known to have any disciples. Okay. Or neither Sanjaya or Dhritrashtra, who also heard that same exact version as spoken by Sri Krishna. So multiple are spoken of here. Yes, go ahead.
So are we talking about the same specific knowledge? Because if I remember, Brahma got the 4 verses of Bhagavatam and not Bhagavad Gita.
Not just that. Yes.
So are we talking about 2 different pieces of knowledge, or are we talking about the same knowledge here?
Knowledge is the same. Knowledge is exactly the same. Okay, but it is presented in a particular context at a particular time. So when Krishna says that this knowledge is lost, or I first spoke it to the sun god Vivishwan, it was not that Vivishwan was standing on a battlefield with his cousins fighting over a piece of land and Krishna was his chariot driver. No, but the knowledge, the essence of the knowledge is exactly the same that was given by Sri Krishna to Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. That's the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Janmadyasya yaton vayad. So itaratas chartheshva bhigya swara Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yad Suraya. So he says in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, this knowledge was transmitted from me to Brahmaji right from Hridaya Adi Kavaye. So to the heart of the Adi Kavi, who is Sri Brahmaji. So, but the essence, and those were the 4 Chaturshloki of Srimad Bhagavatam, but the essence is the same. And contextually, it is explained in the various contexts by Sri Krishna to Arjuna in the context of Kurukshetra battlefield, to Vivishwan in some other context, and to Brahmaji in some context. Okay.
Okay, so how do we reconcile the disciplic succession there? Are there 2 disciplic?
So they have their different disciplic successions. So this, as you can see here, Manu and Ikshvaku, that disciplic succession was lost. But he's just giving an example that this is a disciplic succession. Arjuna, Sanjaya or Dhritrashtra are not known to have any disciples. That's fine. So Krishna starts the disciplic succession multiple times. And the ones that still survive till today are the 4 principal ones. They are not the 4 only ones. This is another misconception. These are not the 4 only sampradayas ever. These are the 4 primary sampradayas. Okay, so they are still alive and well and healthy. The Sri Sampradaya, whose Acharya, the primary Acharya these days, I mean, in the modern times, and modern when I say it's, I mean in the last few thousand years, is Sri Ramanujacharya. Then Madhvacharya for our Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Then Nimbarka Swami, Vishnu Swami. I mean, so these are the well-established schools, or you can consider it like the universities in which we have access today. There were many which were initiated by Sri Krishna, but didn't flourish further. But that's no problem. Having access to any one is fine. There are so many, just for material knowledge, so many universities existed and they were lost, like Nalanda University, or even in modern times. But as long as you have some university where you can learn quantum mechanics, fine, you can go to that university and learn, as long as they are teaching it properly. Each professor will teach it slightly differently, but the principles will be the same. And Brahmaji was such an expert, he didn't need a big textbook on quantum mechanics. He could be given just the 4 equations, like, I don't know about quantum mechanics, but like the 4 fundamental equations of electrodynamics, the what are known as the Maxwell's equations. Have you heard of those? 4 very compact, I don't remember them now, whatever, integral, whatever, EDS or whatever, the Gauss. He can be given, he's so smart that given just 4 equations on a piece of paper, small post-it note is enough for him. But for people like you and me, we need a whole semester course to understand those 4 equations. Now, would you say this semester course is different from those 4 fundamental equations? No. It's exactly the same. We need a longer explanation to get it. And Sri Krishna gives it to different students depending on their capacity. For Arjuna, he had to speak 700 verses. To Brahmaji, he could give a small post-it note. Chaturshloki. Is that helpful?
Yes, Dhanyavad, Hare Krishna.
Anything else? I don't see any other hands raised. Yes, Prachi. And you can lower your hand if you had raised it earlier. You can come back in the queue if you have another question. Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji, my question was, what are the rules to reading Bhagavad Gita? Like many people are like giving their opinions about what is important when you're reading Bhagavad Gita. Like what is the perfect time to be reading it? Plus physical cleanliness and all those things.
Okay. Very nice question. The most important thing is to read Bhagavad Gita or study. I don't like the word read much. I like the word study. It has a whole different meaning when you are like reading. It's the more serious version of reading. I call it study. Okay. So the most important thing is to study it. You can, late night, and the most important criteria is when your mind is fresh. Now, people may say early in the morning. Early morning does not mean when you sleep at 1 a.m. and you get up at 4 a.m. 4 a.m. is early morning, but that is a very distorted version of early morning. After 3 hours of sleep, at least I cannot have a fresh mind. To get up at 4 a.m., you must sleep by 8 p.m. Then you will have a fresh mind at 4 a.m. Some people have the fresh mind at 12 midnight because they get up at noon. And by evening, their mind is really fresh. So the best criteria is when the mind is fresh, because this Bhagavad Gita is supposed to be studied. Okay. And yes, physical cleanliness means don't read it, after going to the bathroom, wash your hands and then read. That's the minimum. Otherwise, just, sit in a, one thing is don't put your shoes on the Bhagavad Gita, or don't put the Bhagavad Gita on your shoes or on your foot. Give it some respect, at least some basic respect, but that is enough. Don't worry about, people get hung up on all these things. And the loss is that they don't read Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Somehow or the other, even if you want to read it in the bathroom, better to read it in the bathroom than to wait for the perfect day to read it somewhere, in the future. With that principle, I hope you can understand what is the best way to read.
Yes,
And the
thank you
best
very
is to read it under the guidance of a teacher. When I say that, I mean, yes, with some very easily understandable and authentic, high fidelity, that is very important, commentary or explanation. Directly by reading the verses, one could get confused because there are various interpretations possible. So reading under the guidance of a teacher, and when the mind is fresh, and also when there is some real life questions. If there are no questions, then you must really ask yourself why you want to read Bhagavad Gita. So that goes back to that point of suffering. The biggest questions come when there is some suffering. The biggest question in anybody's life is, why me? Find your question in life. Bhagavad Gita will have the answer. I say this to everyone, and in the last 20 years, nobody has been able to falsify me. That Bhagavad Gita has the answer to all questions. All questions. All questions means about all questions of life. All the why me questions. Okay. Pradeep.
Hare Krishna. I had a couple of questions. So first question is about Dhritrashtra. You had mentioned that
Oh, you are Pradeep. Oh, very nice. Hare
oh,
Krishna.
yeah.
Anyway, I won't say more to. It's a public. Very nice
Yeah.
to see you. I couldn't recognize Pradeep earlier.
That was actually Pradeep. He's my
Yeah.
husband.
I know. Now I connect.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the first question is related to Dhritrashtra. So, as we have as I know of Mahabharat, he is said to be blind. So my most curious question has been from a very long time that was he really blind, or was he personified blind because he could not get the Bhagavad Gita?
He was really blind, but he was also blind from his brain or mind. He was a
Got
brilliant person. He was very intelligent. See, sometimes people are very intelligent. Have you heard of this term called the mad scientist or the crooked scientist? One can be intelligent, but they use their intelligence in a demoniac way. Like Ravana, very intelligent, very, very, very intelligent, but he did not have this much intelligence that you should not put your eyes on someone else's wife. And that too of a very powerful person who will crush you. Okay, Vinasha Kale Viparita Buddhi. So that was the situation. So you cannot call such a person most intelligent, but he is 99% intelligent, but in a wrong way. So that is also the situation with Dhritrashtra. So many people warned him. So many people warned him. I love Mahabharata. I have read Mahabharata to a large extent. The original Mahabharata, as in every verse, detail. It's a huge project. So could go very far into it, not fully though. Oh my God, you can see the whole character of Dhritarashtra. The best thing to learn from Mahabharata, I feel, more than, Bhagavad Gita and all, I'm just dramatizing it, is to learn from the character of Dhritarashtra. He is the most complicated character. Anyway, so does that answer your question? Yes, he was physically blind, but his mind was also blind.
Got it. And the second question is about the, I know we have not covered that in this class, but just because I'm curious to know that part. You mentioned that there is always a constant cycle of life and death, right? And we all are uh, bound to this cycle. So similar to this, I had question about this yuga, right? That we have repeated cycles of the Chatur Yuga and they all form a Manvantar, right? So does it
14 cycles form a Manvantara. We will cover it in 8th chapter. Anyway, go ahead.
So, does it happen that in every Chaturyug the same thing repeats? We have Mahabharata, and then the same avatar of Lord Vishnu, Krishna, comes into the earth, and there are same
Similar,
set of disciples.
similar, not exact same. It's not like going and watching the replay of the movie, you know, and it's not like rewind and replay or, like that, but similar. And Lord Krishna does not appear in every yuga or every Chatur Yuga. He appears once in 1000 yugas, what
Oh,
is known as a kalpa. So a day of Brahma, that is called, once in that he appears. In other yugas or other times, he appears as other avatars, but Krishna is supposed to be the most sweetest and the topmost avatar. We'll not cover that as part of Bhagavad Gita. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, verse 28, there is a verse. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Ete chamsha ete chamsha pumsha kala pumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. So Krishna is among all the avatars that have been described in the Bhagavatam, Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. Anyway, so we are very lucky to have been born in the yuga in which Sri Krishna appeared. But in other yugas, people who are born get the benefit of the other avatars of the Lord, and they are very nice as well.
got it. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So we will conclude the session today. I don't see any other hands. So yes. Sorry, I was sharing. Okay. So we will see you all. We are 10 minutes late. I said plus minus little bit, so that's fine. And those who had to leave can, watch the recording, last portion or whatever. Sometimes some people may need to watch the whole thing again for it to sink in. It's a lot to absorb, I agree. And we will start with chapter 1 next time. Thank you very, very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time, same place on Zoom, and 6 p.m. Pacific time, Friday. Hare Krishna. I need to stop the recording.